All right, good day and welcome back to the channel. Today we're making a sweet treat that is going to be kind of an experiment. It's something I've never actually had before, but I'm trying to make a keto version of a Haupia pie. Doesn't that sound awesome? What is it? Haupia pie. Coconut and macadamia nut crust, a thick layer of chocolate pudding kind of stuff, and an upper layer of creamy, coconutty whipped topping. It's gonna be awesome. Can't wait. Welcome back to the Farm Cook channel. This is the place where you get to eat well, have fun, and hopefully learn lots, especially about low carb and keto cooking. So now, let's get ready and make some dinner. All right, so as I mentioned, we're making something that sounds really awesome. I don't have any frame of reference for it though. I've never actually had it. Haupia pie is something that I understand originated in Hawaii, and it's something I've seen on cooking shows, I've seen in recipes, and I thought, when hearing about the description of what the constituents of the pie are, I thought, A, I could make this keto, and B, even if I don't get it exactly right compared to the original, it's still gonna be pretty tasty. So that's what we're doing today. So I've got my food processor out, and we're gonna be processing the crust. Start off with 4 ounces of macadamia nuts. These are happen to be roasted and salted. I don't care too much about the salt. I've tried this in the crust and it works really, really well. So that's gonna go in first. And we're gonna blitz these until they get to be sort of a fine, crumbly kind of a powder. You don't wanna go too far with it. We're not making macadamia nut butter. I mean, you could, but that would be for a different recipe. So let's get started with this. And we're getting close. I'm gonna pulse it a couple more times, but that's all it takes to turn already roasted macadamia nuts into a major component for the crust. Oh yeah. So I don't know if this is going to show up on the camera. It doesn't always do a great job of focusing in, but that's the size, about the size that I'm looking for. It's a little bit larger, but we're not done processing, because the next ingredient is shredded coconut. So that was 4 ounces of macadamia nuts. This is 4 ounces of shredded coconut that's going in. And to that, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of allulose powder. And we're just gonna incorporate all of this. Awesome. So you can see this is sort of a fine, crumbly, powdery kind of a texture that is going to serve as the base for the pie crust. And I can't find my big springform pan, so I'm going to use a couple of these little 4-inch springform pans. But before we do that, I'm going to add a little bit of melted butter and just mix everything together. That's probably a tablespoon and a half. Oh yeah. So the macadamia nuts have a terrific amount of wonderful fat already in them. The butter is going to help everything sort of stick together and hold its shape when it's pressed into these molds. And all I'm going to do now is prep the molds, drop the crust material in, and then toss them into a 375 oven that's preheated and cook them for about, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 minutes until you smell wonderful, toasty, coconutty, macadamia nutty kinds of smells. And that's all there is to it for making the crust. So let me finish prepping these guys and getting the crust squished into them. I'm not very good at doing this. I am not a baker at all. But what I'm doing is just taking this stuff, pushing it into the little pans after they get some love with the butter, and that'll be the crust for the pies, and it's going to be awesome. And by the way, after these come out of the oven, you're going to smell this amazing smell throughout your house of the coconut plus macadamia nut. It's just awesome. Next step in the process, getting the materials ready for the first layer of filling in the Haupia pie. I'm going to break up a couple of pieces of this 92% Ghirardelli chocolate. In the whizzer, I didn't clean it out at all. It's still got the stuff left over from the pie crust materials. And I'm just blitzing it. Just 2 squares, actually, of the Ghirardelli chocolate. And that's going to get folded into the chocolate layer to provide an additional punch of chocolate. And I think that's very helpful to go with the cocoa powder that is going to be the primary chocolate component of that pudding type layer. So that's what we've got over here. Let me grab one of these little containers. And it's not a lot. Oops, and I'm making kind of a mess. You can get an idea. This isn't a huge amount of chocolate, but it's going to provide little bursts of intense chocolate flavor in the midst of this creamy, rich, very thick mousse or pudding kind of layer. So that's exactly what I was looking for. Again, 2 squares, and I think on these, it says 3 squares gives you a total of 4 carbs. Sorry, 10 carbs, of which 4 is fiber. So this is just 2 squares. So anyway, it's a very small amount that's going to be distributed across all 4 of these little pie tins, but it's going to add some awesome flavor. Here's what we've got. These little springform pans that have the mixture of coconut and ground up macadamia nut, a little bit of sweetener, a little bit of butter, distributed evenly across these 4 little containers. And next they just go in the oven for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes until they are golden, brown, and delicious. After that, we get to start working on the filling for the pie crust. And that filling involves cream cheese, which I've got softening right by the vent for the oven. So I just keep flipping those around to soften because I forgot to take them out of the fridge a little bit earlier. So that's what's happening with those guys. Let's get to it. Got to do a little cleanup first though. All right, we're ready to check. Oh man. So I'm not sure if you can see how golden brown and delicious these guys are looking, but they are ready for the next phase. So let me maneuver you over here. Oh my. Toasted coconut with some toasted macadamia nut and some butter smell. This is awesome. Cannot wait. Just gotta let these guys cool for a little bit and then we'll get started on the filling. Next step in the process, filling. We're gonna make some whipped cream out of some heavy whipping cream. And we're gonna let this go in the mixer until we get some nice peaks. So we've got just the beginning of some air getting incorporated into the cream. I'm going to add some allulose. This is a half cup of allulose. That'll help sweeten and hopefully stabilize the cream. I'm also going to add just a splash of some vanilla extract. And then keep on mixing and getting that air incorporated to make it nice and fluffy before we add the cream cheese. So this is going to be basically the chocolate silk pie filling with some extra nubbins that's going into a different pie shell. It's going to be topped with a coconut cream that gets whipped as well. So it's going to be yummy. And now that there is some of the sweetener in there, and it's had a chance to incorporate some air, it's not splashing around as much. It's starting to get nice and thick. We're almost there. So again, maybe hard to see on the video. I can't get the camera down, but it's not stiff peaks, but we're getting there. And I'm not actually looking for stiff peaks. I'm looking for something a little before then, maybe soft peaks. Because I'm trying to recreate a pie that the way that the texture described is like it's a thick pudding, and it's usually thickened with a tapioca starch or arrowroot. And arrowroot is okay for a keto diet, but I was wondering if I could do this using some really good fat, the cream cheese, to sort of mimic that same sort of texture, but add some of the bite from the cream cheese for the flavor. So we'll see. I think that is good. And now I'm going to drop in the cream cheese, get that mixed up, and then I'll add the cocoa powder. The cocoa powder is super dry, and the process of integrating the cocoa powder causes a lot of tightening of the final product. It gets it makes it very, very stiff, which again is what one of the things that we're looking for. Is we want this thick, rich, delicious, creamy filling. While that first guy is getting mixed in, let's get the other guy ready to go. Oh my gosh, that's looking very, very good. Let's drop him in. Whoops. Making a mess. You want to catch this before it becomes a mess that gets transferred elsewhere, but it happens. And because the cream cheese was really soft, it's getting whipped into this mixture pretty readily. Love the KitchenAid for these kind of tasks. All right, that hasn't been terribly long. You can see how thick this is. This is thick. So let me scrape down the sides. Make sure everything comes out of the balloon whisk. Get this guy in. Oh, and before getting that totally back together, I'm going to drop in a half cup of cocoa powder. And since the cocoa powder is really, or the chocolate flavor is one of the stars for this recipe, I think it makes sense to use a good quality cocoa powder. High cacao and butterfat content, or cocoa butter content. What does this say? 100% cacao, red Dutch processed cocoa powder. And each serving of a tablespoon contains 2 grams of carbohydrates and 1 gram of fiber. So only 1 net gram of carbs per tablespoon. So because this stuff is so thick, just mixing at this speed isn't going to cut it. I need to boost it a bit. So let's scrape down the sides, make sure everybody gets incorporated. All that cream cheese, all the cocoa powder, all the sweetener. But we're almost done. All right, I think that's it. Let's lower this guy. Look at that. That is thick, delicious. Gotta get a little sample. It's got the texture, consistency of frosting almost. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's more than pretty good. That's really good. What I'm going to do now, try and get this stuff stuck out of this whisk, and I'm going to mix in the little crunchy bits that I'd made previously using the little bit of 2 squares of the Ghirardelli chocolate, the 92% cacao, and whatever little bits of coconut happen to be left up, and macadamia nut that happen to be left over in the food processor. Put that over here. And I'm just going to take these guys, those little chocolatey bits, and fold them in to this filling. Try and get those evenly distributed. And then this delicious filling is going to go into these golden brown and delicious crusts. And after that, they're going to go into the freezer for 2 hours. And then we're going to top them with a whipped coconut cream. It's going to be so good. Cannot wait. All right, the next step in this process, while the pies that are partially filled are in the freezer, getting all nice and set up, is we're going to toast some coconut for the top of, as a topper. Add extra flavor and crunch. So all we do is get a pan going, nothing in it, just the coconut. And it'll toast up pretty quickly and change character from just basic coconut to, well, something I think is very, very different. So I love that extra crunchy little bit that goes on top. It just elevates the dish. The only thing about toasting coconut is, gotta keep an eye on it. It can go from not looking like anything is happening at all to burned very quickly. So you have to keep moving it. You have to keep your eye on it. And it starts off very pale, light brown. And after a couple of seconds of toasting, dry toasting in the frying pan, it's gonna turn a darker brown, and it's gonna become much more aromatic, much more flavorful, and delicious. So I've got a medium-high heat going so far. The pan was cold. You saw me just start up the fire. This won't take too long. But again, you have to babysit it. Yeah, got to be careful. Got to keep mixing. Almost like a roux. It's this crumbly stuff in the bottom of the pan that you're trying to get a little bit of color onto if you're building a roux with color. But in this case, it's just coconut, shredded coconut, not sweetened, just shredded. Relatively low carb. I think provides a lot of really awesome flavor. Obviously, if you don't like coconut, this may not be the right dish for you. But this is a dish that originated, I think it originated in Hawaii, so not too surprising it's got coconut. Or that it would be thickened, normally thickened with arrowroot. That's what I understand was the sort of traditional method of making this, although I think more people are using cornstarch these days. We're starting to get a little bit of brown bits on some of the pieces that are on the edge. Getting a little bit more color now. Again, this doesn't take very long. And just keep swimming, just keep moving. You do not want to burn your coconuts. All right. Now this is getting to the point where it's almost done. There's some pieces that are looking nice and golden and brown and delicious. And I know the pan is actually going to retain some of the heat, so I think I'm going to turn it off now and keep spinning the coconut while the heat dissipates. Yeah, that's looking really nice. So I'm not sure if you can see that very well on the video, but it is definitely changed character. Let me drop some of this into the container that it came from. Oh, let's get it all in there to stop the cooking entirely. That's what it looks like once it's done. Crunchy, nutty, aromatic. Yummy. So that's going to be the topper once we get done the last layer. So that's going to be another couple hours while I wait for the the first layer to set up. So check back soon. All right, welcome back. It is now time to make up the coconut cream. So we've got a can of coconut milk, unsweetened, and unfortunately it can, the coconut milk that you use can have a huge impact on whether or not it's likely to be able to get made into a coconut cream. The idea is to take the solid stuff that's at the top and carefully get that out and use that to floof and make the coconut cream. If there's too much coconut milk liquid, it doesn't fluff at all. So I'm trying to be careful. Dropping the coconut milk, the solid part, into the mixing bowl. Mixing bowl is chilled, as was the whisk. It's been out for a minute or two now. So I'm trying to just grab the creamy part, the white part, without getting any of the liquid. And unfortunately, I've tried this a couple of times, and it's just, there's some brands that don't work. So let me put that here for now. Let's give this a shot. And just like making regular whipped cream, you start off with a product in a chilled mixing bowl with chilled whisks and chilled product. This has been in the fridge overnight, and you start whisking. This is already fluffier than what I was getting when I had tried previously. What I'm going to do now is add a little bit of allulose. This is about 2 tablespoons of allulose for some sweetness. And I'm also going to drop in a little bit of vanilla. And that may alter the color a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. This is working. Awesome. Make sure I scrape down the sides, make sure everything gets mixed together. And because this is the cream, the thick part of the coconut milk, it's not splattering, it's not splashing around. It's looking almost like a batter. The idea is to just whip in some additional air to make a coconut cream. So these aren't stiff peaks, but I think they'll be okay for this application. And this is what the output looks like from the base layer of the Haupia pie. I'm just going to loosen it up a little bit. Run a knife around the inside. And then proceed to unmold. Alrighty, I think that's good enough. I'm gonna pop the latch there, and there we have it. A beautiful little, I don't know, tartlet, cakelet. Not sure what the right terminology is. I'm trying to get them off of this base plate without breaking the crust. And there he is. Let me cut him first. That way you can get a look at what the inside looks like. Here's the cross section. Hopefully the camera can pick that up. It's ooey, it's gooey, it's fragrant. That crust, that baked coconut macadamia nut crust, awesome. Let's take a little bit of this stuff and drop it on. So this didn't fluff up the way I was hoping it would, but it did okay. And I am very much looking forward to giving this a shot. So this is my version of a Haupia pie. Now the moment of truth. Yummy. You get the coconut, a little bit of the macadamia nut, chocolate is there. I forgot one other thing. Toasted coconut topping. Alrighty, there we go. A little extra toasted coconut on top. Super rich. Creamy, creamy, creamy. Not overly sweet. The toasted coconut had no sweetener added to it at all. It's just got this awesome crunchy coconutty flavor, a little bit concentrated. Chocolate is yummy, base is delicious, perfectly cooked. Man, this is good. Give it a try. Thanks. Let me know how it turned out. Thanks.